Laufeyson. Variant L1130, aka Loki Laufeyson, is charged with sequence violation 72089. How do you plead?
Madam, a god doesn't plead. Look, this has been a very enjoyable pantomime, but I'd like to go home now.
Are you guilty or not guilty, sir?
Guilty of being the god of mischief? Yes. Guilty of finding all this incredibly tedious? Yes. Guilty of a crime against the sacred timeline? Absolutely not. You have the wrong person.
Oh, really? And who should we have?
I suspect the Avengers. You see, I only came into possession of the Tesseract because they traveled through time. No doubt in a last-ditch effort to stave off my ascent to God King.
That's quite an accusation.
Oh, believe me, you can smell the cologne of two Tony Starks. You speak of time criminals? It's they you should be after. Perhaps you could provide me with a task force and resources, and I could return and eliminate them for you.
We're not here to talk about the Avengers.
Oh, no?
No. What they did was supposed to happen. You escaping was not.
Right. Not supposed to happen. According to whom?
The timekeepers.
Oh, the timekeepers. Right. Well, perhaps I should speak to these timekeepers. Gods to gods.
I'm sorry, but they're quite busy.
Oh, they are? What are they doing?
Dictating the proper flow of time.
I see. Right, and then what do you do?
Dictate the proper flow of time according to their dictations. How do you plead?
Guilty. Of this.
What's going on?
Hang on. Everyone quiet.
He's trying to use his powers, ma'am.
Don't rush me. Damn it! Why would it work?
Magic powers. They're no good in the TVA, Mr. Laufeyson. The court finds you guilty, and I sentence you to be reset. Next case, please.
Reset. What does that mean? Is it bad? What does it mean?
Hey, like you ridiculous bureaucrats will not dictate how my story ends.
It's not your story, Mr. Laufeyson. It never was.
You have no idea what I'm capable of.
I think I might have an idea of what he's capable of.
Approach the bench.
Hi.
If you're thinking what I think you're thinking, it's a bad idea.
Okay, I'm just chasing a hunch.
Anything goes sideways, it's on you.
Okay. I feel like I'm always looking up to you. I like it. It's appropriate.
And who are you?
I know that there's somebody out there that needs to hear this. They need to hear it.
Good day, man. Well, for all the listeners out there, let me give a quick introduction of who I'm speaking to here. This is my friend, Larry Bollinger, and he's an old neighbor of mine. I believe I met him in Eugene back in, I want to say 2017. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
2017?
Yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had just started the website and it had been open for a couple of years. Yes. And
yeah,
that was
Larry.
before the big- Yeah.
Larry is the founder of Cannabis Medicine Online. He was a neighbor of mine who, crazy old bastard, just every day out on his back porch, just blasting dab and growing weed and just always there for a conversation, always inviting me over, always wanting to have a chat. I could be next door for hours and hours and hours. And this was the time that I was beginning to spiral pretty hard. I began losing my shit. Actually, towards the end of my time in that apartment building, I actually spent a lot of time avoiding you because I was so paranoid from the drugs that in my head, you were plotting to kill me. The upstairs neighbors were plotting to kill me. Everyone around me was plotting to kill me. Everyone from my past was watching me. shadows coming out of the wall. I was abusing psychedelics. I was engaging in things that I should not have been engaging in.
Right.
And
no, I feel you.
no,
Man.
you were always the light that I could go to and have these conversations with. And it seems like you've been kind of going through some of that kind of crazy shit yourself lately. And I think we're going through a time right now where, as you said, a lot of doors are being opened and
Yeah.
Shit's getting crazy.
I gave myself a fucking lobotomy, dude. I stirred my fucking brains up with a goddamn dab tool. Now, if that ain't fucking needing help, I don't know what the hell is. But
let's start that one from the beginning. If you do, you want to tell that one to the audience?
Yeah.
Is that one that you would mind?
No, I don't mind. Okay. Yeah. So, when I had my big accident, I was influenced by spirits. I was influenced by what I believe were demonic entities, and I was protected by the Greys. Okay. If it weren't for the Greys, I would have perished. All right. Because they protected me, because I have a contract with them from when I was born. I was abducted my whole life. And so let's start at the beginning, Ty. Let's not just start straight from the icky stuff. Let's start from the beginning. And that's when I was coming up in Fremont, California. I was a good little kid, wore my cowboy boots, loved them to death, and my Woody Woodpecker doll. And that's all I needed, man. And I was a happy camper. And my dog Gwendolyn, who took care of me, was my babysitter. And from the time I was 2, I knew something was up. 2 to 3 years old, I knew something was up. There were other people, there were other things in my room with me, and I knew they were there, but they wouldn't reveal themselves to me. But I fucking knew they were there. And so we added on to our room, and I was in the kitchen of the first house we were in on Chetwood Street in Fremont, and I was jumping off a chair. First, I got the chair, and I went up and I reached up on the refrigerator, and I got a cool cigarette down, for my mom kept her cigarettes up there because I wanted to know what that was all about. I was inquisitive, I wanted to know, and that was not for me, man. I snuffed that thing out, put it back in the pack. Hope she'd never notice, Of course she noticed. I got my ass beat for it. Yep. But this is back before timeouts. You got a fucking whipping back then. But I was jumping off the chair. I pulled the chair away from the refrigerator. I'm jumping off the chair. I love the feeling of flight, of falling, the sensation of like a roller coaster. And I'm up and down, jumping off this chair over and over. And I thought to myself, I wonder what it'd be like if I stopped halfway down. And I jumped, and I stopped halfway fucking down. And I froze in midair. Next thing I know, I'm in what I now believe is the 4th dimension with a bunch of shadow people who are having a furious fucking meeting about what I had just done. And they're talking amongst themselves. And these are the same ones who my father told me he had 107-degree temperature. And they came into his room, circled his bed, and were talking amongst themselves of whether he was going to die or not, right? Whether they're going to take him. And one of them spoke up and said, no, he's going to have a son. He needs to have the son. The son has an important mission. And my father told me this. And they told me, after talking amongst themselves, and this whole experience seemed like just like a minute, like just a split second. But it wasn't. It was a lot longer than that. I found out recently. So I'm there, and the one main shadow, I guess, the one main entity says, Larry, you can't stop time. I said, why? Why can't I stop time? I didn't know. I didn't know any better. And I wanted to know why. I thought that wasn't very nice. I thought that was mean, because it was fun. And he said, well, Larry, when you stop time for yourself, you stop time for everyone. And you just can't do that. So we've decided that you're not going to be able to stop time again. And they started arguing amongst themselves again. And they made their decision or whatever. What they wanted, some of them wanted to like fucking end me, because that was like the decision, just kill him now, take him, fucking do something with him. And
crime against the universe.
Yeah, exactly. It was exactly like they were a tribunal, man. And my shit was on the line, buddy. And I had not a clue,
So
I knew that they were arguing. Go ahead.
If you don't mind my interjecting, because I think about the story all the time. This is a story I remember very well. And I do wonder, well, because it just kind of makes you think, is part of the reason that they're around us, that we don't activate these things, is our activating these things outside of their power. And why are we allowed to roam if some of us are able to have access to these things? There's just so many layers of, I'm thinking of soldiers going out into the battlefield in enemy territory, and they're amongst the civilians. That's kind of how I'm envisioning this in my head. Like, there's a soldier in the Middle East, in the town, invisible to everybody around them, completely blended in, and just operating. And
in stealth.
It just makes me wonder what the rules are, like, what are the rules?
The rules are, there are no rules. And that's their difficulty, is there are no rules. We have free will, okay? And we are one of the few planets that has a complete free will, and are a mishmash, a stir fry of fucking every piece of life in the universe. And
Stardust.
we're like this, stardust, petri dish, however you want to look at it. And so they'd made their decision. They looked at me, and without saying so, it was like, we're sending you back, telepathically. And then boom, I'm back in my body. Oh, I'm back. Blammo! Fucking land on the floor. Bust my ass. And I'm like, wow, that was like extra mean,
It's kind of like a spanking on your way out.
Exactly. Yeah, because I was jumping to where I was going to land on my feet, but they had spun me apparently to where I landed on my fucking ass. Yeah, exactly. And that was done by one of them bastards that wanted to hurt me. And he did. So,
God. It's funny, but it's horrifying.
Oh, it is. But now check this shit out, Tyler. I've told you that story before, and feel honored because and y'all too, because I don't tell that story. That's the thing. I've been interviewed by the guys on Ancient Aliens. One of the guys did a 3-part story on me.
No shit.
Yeah.
When the hell was that?
This was like 30 years ago, bro. He was just coming up, and
that's awesome.
It was, yeah. I know. I'm gonna hold of him and send him a copy of this broadcast. I'm not gonna say his name until I have permission to say it.
Yeah, so, if you'd ever love to, I'd put the footage up in a heartbeat. That'd be amazing. But sorry, continue.
Yeah. No, that's quite all right. But I've started watching Gaia TV. And if y'all don't watch Gaia, okay? Watch it. If you don't watch Unified, watch it. You'll learn a lot about who you are. Now, on Gaia, there has different perspectives of what is right and what is wrong. There's a lot of contradiction. but you're smart. You'll know what's up and who's full of crap and who's not. You know.
It's all a
And
puzzle
there's a
from
lot
the universe. Like that's part of the
It
fun
is.
is it's been given to us to solve. Like not everything's going to be right. I post shit on my channel all the time, and maybe it's real, maybe it's not. That's for us to all figure out
That's
together.
Yes, and what it is the answer is what works for you. So I'm watching Gaia, and this guy comes on like a George Nuri, and he talks about how he was in school one morning and everything froze. It was about 10:30 in the morning. Yeah, well, it's when I froze time. He spit out a date. I said, yep, that fits. And he says, and everything stopped and everyone was frozen and I couldn't get anybody's attention. And I went out, I walked around, and I was amazed at the world and what I could do and what I could see. And this motherfucker validated to me that I did indeed freeze fucking time. Because he was on the other end of it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I mean, I just want
I'll
to
tell
know,
you
like,
what I think, and I'll tell you why he was awake. It's because our soul is shared. Our souls aren't our own souls. Our souls are shared and split because of the cache of souls and the amount of humans there are.
part of a collective conscious.
Yes, and your soul can be in as many as 24 people at one time. Okay, so this guy had a piece of my soul. I stopped time for me and however many people my soul had pieces into, right?
See, that makes me feel like, that makes me think Harry Potter, and you know how Voldemort, in an effort to not get killed, had to put a part of his soul into the different Horcruxes. It makes me wonder if there are people in the elite trying to wipe out human souls in an effort to keep them from getting to heaven or to their higher selves. If it's not as simple as killing off one person, if there might be an effort in some forms or fashions to figure out who has what connections spiritually speaking and start going after them in that way.
Okay, so you start to have to think about the magic numbers now, right? Mm-hmm. The magic numbers are 144,000. All right. So 144,000 is the number of the quote chosen unquote, or the lambs of God, the oracles, whatever you want to call them. You got to be really careful what you call them because the guys, the Black Ops guys will come, and Men in Black are real, buddy.
Yeah.
And they'll threaten to kill your parents and your grandparents. I've had it happen.
Deep in the Earth's heart lie the Halls of Amenti. Far neath the islands of sunken Atlantis, halls of the dead and halls of the living, bathed in the fire of the infinite all. Far in a past time, lost in the space-time, the children of light look down on the world. See the children of men in their bondage, bound by the force that came from beyond. Knew they that only by freedom from bondage could man ever rise from the earth to the sun. Down they descended and created bodies, taking the semblance of men as their own. The masters of everything said after their forming, "We are they who were formed from the space dust, partaking of life from the infinite all, living in the world as children of men, like and yet unlike the children of men." Then for a dwelling place far neath the earth crust, blasted great spaces they by their power, spaces apart from the children of men. Surrounded them by forces and power, shielded from harm, they the halls of the dead. Side by side then placed they other spaces, filled them with life and with light from above. Builded they then the halls of Amenti, that they might dwell eternally there, living with life to eternity's end. 32 were there of the children, sons of light who had come among men, seeking to free from the bondage of darkness those who were bound by the force from beyond. Deep in the halls of life grew a flower, flaming, expanding, driving backward the night. Placed in the center, a ray of great potence, life-giving, light-giving, filling with power all who came near it. Placed they around it thrones, 32, places for each of the children of light. Placed so that they were bathed in the radiance, filled with the life from the eternal light. There, time after time, placed they their first created bodies so that they might be filled with the spirit of life. 100 years out of each 1,000 must the life-giving light flame forth on their bodies, quickening, awakening the spirit of life. There in the circle from aeon to aeon sit the great masters, living a life not known among men. There in the halls of life they lie sleeping. Free flows their soul through the bodies of men. Time after time, while their bodies lie sleeping, incarnate they in the bodies of men, teaching and guiding onward and upward, out of the darkness into the light. There in the hall of life, filled with their wisdom, known not to the races of man, living forever neath the cold fire of life, sit the children of light. Times there are when they awaken, come from the depths to be lights among men, infinite they among finite. He who by progress has grown from the darkness, lifted himself from the night into light. Free is he made of the halls of Amenti, free of the flower of light and of life. Guided he then, by wisdom and knowledge, passes from man to the master of life. There he may dwell as one with the masters, free from the bonds of the darkness of night. Seated within the flower of radiance sit 7 lords from the space-time above us, helping and guiding through infinite wisdom, the pathway through time of the children of men. Mighty and strange, they, veiled with their power, silent, all-knowing, drawing the life force, different yet one with the children of men. I different, and yet one with the children of light. Custodians and watchers of the force of man's bondage, ready to loose when the light has been reached. First and most mighty sits the veiled presence, Lord of Lords, the infinite 9, over the others from each cosmic cycle, weighing and watching the progress of men. Under he sit the lords of the cycles, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, each with his mission, each with his power, guiding, directing the destiny of man. There sit they, mighty and potent, free of all time and space. Not of this world they, yet akin to it, elder brothers they, of the children of men. Judging and weighing, they with their wisdom, watching the progress light among men. There before them was I led by the dweller, watched him blend with one from above. Then from he came forth a voice saying, Great art thou, Thoth, among children of men, free henceforth of the halls of Amenti, master of life among children of men. Taste not of death except as thou will it, drink thou of life to eternity's end. Henceforth forever is life, thine for the taking. Henceforth is death at the call of thy hand. Dwell here or leave here when thou desireth, free is Amenti to the Son of Man. Take thou up life in what form thou desireth, child of the light that has grown among men. Choose thou thy work, for all souls must labor, never be free from the pathway of light. One step thou hast gained on the long pathway up war, infinite now is the mountain of light. Each step thou taketh but heightens the mountain, all of thy progress but lengthens the goal. Approach ye ever the infinite wisdom, ever before thee recedes the goal. Free are ye made now of the halls of Amenti to walk hand in hand with the lords of the world, one in one purpose, working together, bringers of light to the children of men. Then from his throne came one of the masters, taking my hand and leading me onward, through all the halls of the deep hidden land. Led he me through the halls of Amenti, showing the mysteries that are known not to man. Through the dark passage downward, he led me into the hall where sits the dark death. Vast as space lay the great hall before me, walled by darkness, but yet filled with light. Before me arose a great throne of darkness, veiled on it seated a figure of night. Darker than darkness sat the great figure, dark with a darkness not of the night. Before it then paused the master, speaking, the word that brings about life, saying, O master of darkness, guide of the way from life unto life. Before thee I bring a son of the morning. Touch him not ever with the power of night. Call not his flame to the darkness of night. Know him and see him, one of our brothers, lifted from darkness into the light. Release thou his flame from its bondage, free let it flame through the darkness of night. Raised then the hand of the figure, forth came a flame that grew clear and bright, rolled back swiftly the curtain of darkness, unveiled the hall from the darkness of night. Then grew in the great space before me, flame after flame from the veil of the night. Uncounted millions leapt they before me, some flaming forth as flowers of fire. Others there were that shed a dim radiance, glowing but faintly from out of the night. Some there were that faded swiftly, others that grew from a small spark of light. Each surrounded by its dim veil of darkness, yet flaming with the light that could never be quenched. Coming and going like fireflies in springtime, filled they the space with light and with life. Then spoke a voice mighty and solemn, saying, These are lights that are souls among men, growing and fading, existing forever, changing yet living, through death into life. When they have bloomed into flower, reach the zenith of growth in their life, swiftly then send I my veil of darkness, shrouding and changing to new forms of life. Steadily upward throughout the ages, growing, expanding into yet greater flame, lighting the darkness with yet greater power, quenched yet unquenched by the veil of the night. So grows the soul of man ever upward, quenched yet unquenched by the darkness of night. I, death, come, and yet I remain not, for life eternal exists in the all, only an obstacle I in the pathway, quick to be conquered by the infinite light. Awaken, O flame that burns ever inward, flame forth and conquer the veil of the night. Then in the midst of the flames in the darkness grew there one that drove forth the night, flaming, expanding, ever brighter, until at last was nothing but light. Then spoke my guide, the voice of the Master. See your own soul as it grows in the light, free now forever from the Lord of the Night. Forward he led me through many great spaces filled with the mysteries of the children of light, mysteries that man may never yet know of until he, too, is a son of the light. Backward then he led me into the light of the hall of the light. Knelt I then before the great masters, lords of all from the cycles above. Spoke he then with words of great power, saying, Thou hast been made free of the halls of Amenti. Choose thou thy work among the children of men. Then spoke I, O great master, let me be a teacher of men, leading them onward and upward until they too are lights among men, freed from the veil of the night that surrounds them, flaming with light that shall shine among men. Spoke to me then the voice, Go as ye will, so be it decreed. Master are ye of your destiny, free to take or reject at will. Take ye the power, take ye the wisdom, shine as a light among the children of men. Upward then led me the dweller, dwelt I again among children of men, teaching and showing some of my wisdom, son of the light, a fire among men. Now again I tread the path downward, seeking the light in the darkness of night. Hold ye and keep, preserve my record, guide shall it be to the children of men.
Declassified CIA document from the 1980s has been uncovered, and it reveals a mind-bending truth. The world around you is an illusion created by your own mind, that there are alternate dimensions waiting for you to access them, and ultimately this information shows you are God. Sound crazy? I've devoted my life to studying consciousness and hidden information, and this is one of the most incredible declassified documents I've ever encountered. The shocking information within reveals a method for accessing other realities and a way to tap into the power of your own consciousness to transcend the limitations of time and space. This is not science fiction. This is a real document, and the secrets it holds are waiting for you to uncover. Now, before we continue, make sure you like and subscribe, because I'll be releasing even more information about this document on my channel in the near future. The document begins by revealing the incredible fact that reality is actually an illusion constructed by your brain and the senses. It explains that the brain is capable of constructing a virtual reality through the process of perception by taking raw sensory data and organizing it into a coherent picture of the world. Think of the brain like a computer that processes programming code to construct a video game world. Well, the document explains that the brain operates in a similar way, but that this process can be transcended or hacked, allowing you to have out-of-body experiences and tap into dimensions beyond space and time. I'll be revealing exactly what this document says about how this works, and by the end of this video, you'll have uncovered what's described as a powerful method for breaking out of the confines of your body and the physical world, and you'll have learned the ultimate truth about yourself and all existence. But first, you have to know something about the gateway process. Established in 1974, the Monroe Institute is a mysterious research organization that specializes in the study of altered states of consciousness and human potential by pushing the limits of the human mind. The Monroe Institute developed a training system called the gateway process for altering brain frequencies to a level that induces altered states of consciousness, allowing one to access hidden layers of reality beyond the physical world. This caught the eye of the US military for its potential applications in military and intelligence operations, and in 1978, they ventured into uncharted territories, evaluating the gateway process and its potential applications in the art of war. The military arranged to send its officers for training at the Monroe Institute in the art of out-of-body experiences, or OBEs. And as the years passed, the military's fascination with this only grew stronger, leading to a shadowy mission in 1983, where additional officers were sent to the Monroe Institute with the intention of unlocking the secrets of out-of-body experiences and harnessing the power for military purposes. And it was during this time, specifically on June 9th, 1983, the CIA produced a then classified document for the Department of Defense detailing the gateway process, the illusory nature of reality, other dimensions beyond space and time, and a warning of encounters with non-physical entities. Finally, this document was declassified in 2003. Now it will change the way you look at reality forever. The document begins by explaining how the mechanics of the gateway process, also known as the gateway experience, requires an understanding of biomedical models, quantum mechanics, theoretical physics, hypnosis, meditation, and references its association with the occult. And we're going to dive in and explore that process right now. You need to hear this because this will change the way you see reality forever. The document explains. Fundamentally, the gateway experience is a training system designed to bring enhanced strength, focus, and coherence to the amplitude and frequency of brainwave output between the left and right hemispheres, so as to alter consciousness, moving it outside the physical sphere so as to ultimately escape even the restrictions of time and space. So what's going on here? The left and right hemispheres of the brain have very different functions. For example, when it comes to speech, the left hemisphere deals with the logical structure and rules of sentences, while the right hemisphere deals with the meaning of the sentence. The two hemispheres working together, combining logical structure and meaning, is what allows us to communicate. Essentially, the gateway process uses audio signals delivered through headphones to synchronize the left and right hemispheres of the brain to alter the mind, moving your consciousness outside of physical reality. But hold on, you might be thinking, how can the brain move your consciousness outside of physical reality? Isn't your brain and the mind the same thing? And if your brain is physical, how can it move consciousness outside of physical reality? That doesn't make any sense. That's because the idea that this is a physical reality and that the brain produces consciousness is wrong. Let me explain. The document states, solid matter, in the strict construction of the term, simply does not exist. The truth is that the world around you, everything you can taste, touch, hear, smell, and feel, is a kind of illusion generated by the brain. But what about the brain itself? The brain does not generate consciousness. You are not a brain. You are an eternal system of energy, a complex of frequency. The brain is what filters, limits, and conditions you so that you can experience the physical realm. Think of your brain and body not as what you are, but like a vehicle. Think that's crazy? Not according to neurosurgeon Michael Egnor and many like him, who, due to his work with the brain, has concluded there's no way that the brain can create consciousness and has abandoned materialism for idealism, which means he now believes that reality isn't physical, but mental, immaterial. Your brain and body are not what you are. It's what allows the true you to connect to physical reality. Except physical reality isn't physical either. It just seems that way when you're connected to it, just like a dream seems to be physical and real when you're in the dream. The CIA document states, "The point to be made is that the entire human being, brain, consciousness, and all is like the universe which surrounds him, nothing more or less than an extraordinarily complex system of energy fields. The so-called states of matter are actually variances in the state of energy." According to this document, everything is a non-physical system of energy, including the universe, your body, and your brain. So what is the brain? Well, the brain is still a system of energy, of mind, which has the function of tuning your consciousness to perceive the physical world around you. The document continues. As psychologist Keith Floyd puts it, contrary to what everyone knows is so, it may not be the brain that produces consciousness, but rather consciousness that creates the appearance of the brain. Think of the brain not as what you are, but like a virtual reality headset that you, as an eternal being of frequencies, puts on to experience the illusion of the physical world. A VR headset blocks out the information of one world and gives you the illusion of another world. Well, the brain acts in a similar way. Well, why would your brain do this in the first place? Why would it force you to tune in and focus on only this so-called physical reality and exclude all other information? Because it evolved that way to ensure your survival. If a creature was focused on, let's say, the state of an electron spin on the other side of the universe, a predator would easily hunt it down and eat it. Aldous Huxley said, "Each one of us is potentially mind at large, but insofar as we are animals, our business is at all costs to survive. To make biological survival possible, mind at large has to be funneled through the reducing valve of the brain and nervous system. What comes out at the other end is a measly trickle of the kind of consciousness which will help us to stay alive on the surface of this particular planet." The idea that the brain does not create consciousness, but rather limits and focuses the mind on the so-called physical universe is known as brain filter theory, and that's exactly what this document is stating. You are not a brain. You are not physical. You are an infinite being of energy, of frequencies that's having an experience of the so-called physical world, but it's not physical either. It just seems that way. All reality is actually a kind of internal hologram. The Gateway document continues. The universe is composed of interacting energy fields, some at rest and some in motion, and it is, in and of itself, one gigantic hologram of unbelievable complexity. According to the theories of Carl Pribram, a neuroscientist at Stanford University, and David Bohm, a physicist at the University of London, the human mind is also a hologram which attunes itself to the universal hologram. Now, I need to make something very clear because I feel like I'm going to get a lot of comments about this. It's important to understand the universe is not an external hologram. It doesn't get projected out there like in sci-fi movies. Rather, it gets projected internally. So whenever I or the document mentions a hologram, remember that it's not a hologram that's projected externally that you could put your hand through like in movies. It's an internal mental hologram that's solid and interacts with every physical sense, including touch. To understand that better, think about when you go to sleep and dream. You can think about your dream as an internally projected hologram. It actually is. Reality is a system of mathematical frequency patterns that are mental, they're not physical, and they create an internal hologram within itself that, when you're tuned into it via the brain, can not only be seen, but also touched, tasted, heard, and sensed in every way. According to this document, the gateway process works by hacking the brain, so to speak, by synchronizing the left and right hemispheres of the brain in such a way that it begins to lift the filtering function that keeps you tuned into the physical universe and allows you to have out-of-body experiences and experience other dimensions. According to the gateway document, this is known as clicking out, and it's done by getting the brainwaves to oscillate at a frequency below a distance known as the Planck distance, which is a fundamental concept in quantum physics, named after one of its founders and Nobel Prize winner, Max Planck. This exact distance is 1.6 times 10 to the negative 35 meters, and according to the document, when the brainwaves reach a frequency at this level that is nearly continuous, consciousness clicks out and enters a new world. In fact, Max Planck himself said this over 100 years ago. As a man who has devoted his whole life to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you as a result of my research about atoms this much. There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. The mind is the matrix of all matter. According to Planck, matter doesn't exist. Everything is mind. This is a mental reality. But what does Planck mean by a conscious and intelligent mind being behind all reality? That sounds a lot like God, doesn't it? Well, things are about to get intense because while explaining the process of clicking out to another reality, the document introduces the idea of God known as the Absolute. Between the Absolute and the material universe in which we experience our physical existence are various intervening dimensions to which human consciousness in altered states of being may gain access. The Absolute is conscious energy in infinity, that is, without boundaries. It occupies every dimension to include the time-space dimension in which we have our physical existence, but we cannot perceive it. What is the Absolute? According to this document, the Absolute is mental energy in infinity that is completely at rest. This energy permeates everything and is responsible for everything. Let me explain. Since this is a reality of mathematical frequencies, of energy, it's a reality of waveforms. Now, these are not physical waves, they're immaterial waves of mind. Now, all waveforms, no matter how complex, can be broken down into simple, basic waves known as sinusoids. In other words, sinusoids are the building blocks of reality. They make everything up. Think about Legos, for example. You can construct amazingly complex structures with simple Legos, but you can break down those structures into the individual basic blocks that make it up. The same idea goes for something like a brick house. The house is a complex structure, but you can break it down into its individual bricks. Well, the same thing goes for waveforms. Even a wave structure as complicated as the universe itself can be broken down into individual waves known as sinusoids. They are the building blocks of existence. The Gateway document is using the term the Absolute to refer to the infinite energy that gives rise to the entirety of existence. In other words, the energy that is responsible for all creation. But get ready because this goes even deeper. The term the Absolute was popularized in the field of philosophy in the 19th century by philosopher Georg Hegel. So, what is the Absolute? Well, it's God, but nothing like the kind of God you'd hear about in religion. It's us. Let me explain. According to Hegel, reality is not material, it's actually structured mind. Sound familiar? According to Hegel, the Absolute is the ultimate reality and truth, and the entire process of evolution, the creation of the universe, and history is the Absolute coming to know itself through itself. In other words, the Absolute projects what seems like a physical world from itself and then inserts itself into its own self-generated world as human beings. In other words, we are the Absolute, experience the world that we generated. Now, the Absolute isn't actually self-aware yet. You see, it doesn't do this knowingly. It's like it's asleep and dreaming, and unconsciously creates a dream world and then inserts itself into its dream through human beings. And so it experiences its own world through humans, but it doesn't know that it's doing so. It gets lost in its own dream world. In other words, humans are the absolute, but don't know it. The absolute only becomes conscious when humans realize that's what they are. You are the absolute, but you don't know it. But you could. You could know it right now. You could begin to wake up to the reality of what you are, the reality that you are God experiencing its own world. And all of us are doing the same thing. The gateway process states, we have implied that this universal hologram is the finite embodiment in active energy form of the infinite consciousness of the absolute. It is the title we assigned to that vast pool of energy in a state of perfect rest over which the physical universe is layered and from whence it comes. Our consciousness, therefore, is that differentiated aspect of the universal consciousness which resides within the absolute. Human consciousness is able to separate from physical reality and interact with other intelligences in other dimensions within the universe, and that it is both eternal and destined for ultimate return to the absolute. The document then goes on to explain exactly what Hegel proposed, that is, that the absolute projects itself to explore itself and comes to self-awareness, self-conscious knowledge of itself. In order for the absolute to attain self-consciousness, the consciousness of the absolute must project a hologram of itself and then perceive it. That hologram is a mirror image of the absolute in infinity, still exists outside time and space, but is one step removed from the absolute and is the actual agent of all creation. All reality. Then, on that very sentence, just as the gateway document is explaining exactly what the absolute is, how it comes to self-consciousness through itself, and that this is the true force of creation that religion has believed to be God, the next page is missing. Page 25 is not there. The document picks up again on page 26, but it's completely switched topics. The rest of the document is included. Every single page from page 1 to page 30 is there until the end of the document, but page 25 is gone, right when it was beginning to reveal the true nature of the absolute as the agent of all creation and how it's coming to self-knowledge, the true nature of God. The question is, what is on page 25? Since the report's initial declassification in 2003, countless requests under the Freedom of Information Act have been filed demanding that the CIA release page 25, but the CIA claims they never had it. Fortunately, we now have the missing page, thanks to an article by Vice about the gateway process. Vice received a note from the Monroe Institute 4 days after publishing an article about the Gateway Report. The Institute said they had page 25, that it had been sitting in their archives all along. Now, Vice tried to obtain the page during a phone call with the Institute's CEO, COO, and marketing division, but they refused to release it without a carefully orchestrated marketing plan. But eventually, after a major organizational change, the Monroe Institute's Director of Marketing and Communications emailed Vice with the full Gateway Report, including missing page 25. The question is, what is on page 25? Was something about it too shocking to include? First, the missing page heavily implies this information could unite the world religions. It states, the absolute fits the Christian metaphysical description of the Holy Spirit. Finally, our description of the universal hologram, the torus of creation and evolution, is neither new nor original. Its use as the figure of the universe, of creation developing and evolution, is found in various stylized representations in virtually every religious system of antiquity, whether of Eastern or Western derivation, whether it's the stylized labyrinth once popular in the Hellenic world, the spiralized version of the Hebrew tree of life, or its Hindu counterpart, or the Chinese spiral through the fourfold powers. The ultimate meaning is the same. Mystics the world over, it seems, have perceived the universal hologram in the same spiral form and have incorporated incorporated that intuitive knowledge in their religious writings from antiquity to the present. Next, the missing page begins to talk about an aphorism used in mystical philosophy and esoteric circles. The aphorism, "Know thyself." The Gateway document states, "It was axiomatic to the mystic philosophers of old that the first step in personal maturity could be expressed in the aphorism, know thyself. No modern test in psychology will ever replace the depth and fullness of the perception of self which can be achieved when the mind alters its state of consciousness sufficiently to perceive the very hologram of itself which it has projected into the universe in its proper context as part of the universal hologram in a totally holistic and intuitional way. This would seem to be one of the real promises of the Gateway experience from the standpoint of its ability to provide a portal through which, based on months, if not years of practice, the individual may pass in his search to find self, personal effectuality, and truth in the larger sense." Now hold on, what does this mean exactly? What does know thyself have to do with anything? Well, the full aphorism is, "Know thyself and you shall know the universe and the gods." This means that when you truly know yourself, when you know what you are, you'll know the universe and the gods. Why? Because you are the universe and the gods. You are all reality. You, we, all of us are the absolute, exploring itself through its own dream world. Interesting that information that could result in a possible unification of the world religions and human beings achieving the true knowledge of what they are and what existence is through self-knowledge was omitted. Just like in the Garden of Eden, knowledge of the self and that you can become God through this knowledge is always forbidden. While not everything in this document is entirely accurate, it's decades old after all, its major points are exactly right. Humanity is on the brink of a new beginning, a new consciousness, and once we all understand that we are the absolute experiencing ourselves in our own diversity and transformations, we'll realize that we're all in this together, and instead of fighting and attempting to destroy each other, we'll finally begin to work together to construct a brilliant new world. And that's exactly what we're here to do. Join us spreading a new consciousness and constructing a new world.